find something that resonates with you, backtest the hell out of it. Don't switch strategy until you've really mastered it, because I think things have to get complicated before they can get simple, which is something that I have learned myself. Like the strategy is very simple now, but once it was very complicated. I guess just don't give up, because as long as you've got a clear goal, you stick with it, no matter how hard it gets, then success is inevitable.
So hi guys, today I'm with one of our funded traders on the Bootcamp challenge, Griff. Griff, how are you doing today, man?
I'm all right, thank you, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So we were just talking just before, and something quite interesting to me is that you've only taken one challenge with the Fivers, and that was the Bootcamp account, which is a three-stage program. And that is interesting because a lot of people that come through, they don't succeed straight away. They don't succeed on their first challenge, and they normally get better and better before they actually get funded. But you've got a little bit more experience, and you've shown that with your multiple payouts and your consistency in your accounts. Do you want to just give us a little bit of a background on yourself, how you got into trading, and then we'll take it from there?
Yeah, sure. So I started trading, I think, around 2020, lockdown, plenty of time on my hands. Before that, I was drop shipping, which a lot of people have probably done before. I had a lot of success with that, and eventually I couldn't replicate the success I had at the early stages, so I wanted something new, and I found trading through social media. And I spent my first year or two just backtesting, doing nothing else. Just I found a strategy that resonated with me, and I practiced it for about a year and a half before I actually started live trading. And so I was consistently profitable right from the get-go because I was so confident in the data that I'd gathered.
Fantastic. And did you first get into trading super simple for you? You were able to withdraw profits and become profitable quite easy, or did you go through a little bit of hard time?
I mean, there's always hard times,
Yeah.
like it's difficult to avoid those hard times. But I think I've taken a lot of lessons with me from other ventures in the past that as long as you just don't give up, it's
Yep.
basically impossible to fail, right? So every time I've met a hurdle, sometimes I'll meet three hurdles in a row, and it's really frustrating. It's only when these hurdles are like back to back, these challenges are back to back, that the frustration really stacks. That's when it's difficult, I think. But individually, these challenges are easily faced. But yet, obviously, being consistently profitable right from the get-go doesn't mean I was extremely profitable. I think my first year I made like 30%, second year I made 80%, and now I'm in my third year of live trading. And last month was like a 15% a winning month. So I'm hoping that the next few quarters will follow suit.
That's pretty impressive. Into the blue straight away, and actually having those success trading takes a lot of people a long time, including myself. I tell you, I've been trading for just over 5 years, and profitability was always so close, but sometimes you can always make mistakes and you can get quite far away, and it's something that you've got to pick away and pick away and pick away. But it's quite interesting how you found your way quite fast. Is there any specific reason that happened? Is there anything, do you just feel like you were just it was just very natural to you to trade, and you felt quite comfortable trading and managing risk?
Maybe. I think it's a business like any other in many ways. So I kind of went into it with a game plan where I was just going to master one thing. I wasn't going to jump between a bunch of different strategies. I was going to find something I liked and do that one thing for a very long time. Because in the past, I had a tendency to bounce between different ideas and not really get anywhere. Generally, people know me as a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, which I wanted to change. So now I'm a jack of all trades, master of one.
Yeah.
I've mastered trading and nothing else pretty much. But yeah, first 6 months just watching YouTube videos, and then I went to a trading community pretty early on. First community didn't really resonate with me, and I joined a second trading community, which I was with for about 2 or 3 years before that started to burn out. Really, I felt like I'd outgrown it, because when you have a mentor, someone above you, your experience is kind of limited to the experience of the mentor in many ways. So I was kind of capping myself. So I kind of made the leap to leave that community. And since then, around the last year, I've been making leaps and bounds in my progress because there's nothing holding me back anymore. There's no one who I'm kind of pinning myself to, if that makes sense.
So do you have somebody now like that is, you know, gone to the next level that now you're looking up to and kind of confiding in, and that ever you kind of now found your own feet, that you've just got rid of any kind of trading community, you're just on your own, you're just doing everything the way that you want to do it.
Kind of. I mean, I still have a trading community, but it's one of my own, one
Mhm,
that I've made with my friends called Zentum, and kind of just passing down the information I've gathered over the last few years, because rather than them having to go through this messy road, which I had to go
mhm,
through, I can just give them the straight path, so they can not make all the mistakes that I made. So I've still got a community in that sense. I've still got people alongside me, but nobody kind of above me, so
mhm,
that I'm looking up to.
mhm,
Obviously, I take information from everywhere, like any
mhm,
trader that has something interesting, I'll look into it myself. But yeah, I'm kind of a bit more standalone now, which has definitely made me a much more confident trader. Obviously, a bit scary to make the leap initially to, not kind of following anyone. Um,
mhm.
but yeah, since going my own way, I've been able to implement all these new ideas, which would have been like taboo otherwise. Which
Mhm.
I'm quite proud of, to be able to bring my own ideas into my trading and see it actually working, and actually get those results. It's very satisfying.
Yeah. With your trading, obviously, did you go straight into swing trading, or did you have a little bit of a, you know, you started lower time frames and found that maybe it wasn't for you, and then you changed a little
Yeah,
bit of it?
you
How
know,
was that process?
funny, actually, now that you mention it, I've never looked at the lower time frames until the last few months. I've traded the 1 hour and nothing else, which is quite
Nice.
unique, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
But recently I have been considering the higher time frames a bit more and the lower time frames a bit more. Quite often the way I'd look at the charts is, if you look really closely, you can kind of see what's happening on the lower time frames from the 1 hour. It's a good like
Yeah.
middle ground. And zooming out, you can see the higher time frame as well quite easily. So that's kind of the way that I've justified it. But I have looked at lower time frames maybe for entries, because it does make a lot more sense. There's a lot more precision on the lower time frames. But then, there's pros and cons, because the lower time frames, specific levels also get disrespected more easily, I think, right? So yeah, I guess I could potentially introduce lower time frames for entries and then continue using my 1 hour for analysis. But yeah, like I'm open to so many ideas now. I've got a huge list of things that I need to test,
Mhm,
and not enough time to do it all. But
mhm.
yeah, at the moment, just 1 hour time frame and nothing else, which is what I've always done.
And do you feel, are you quite a patient person then? Because you could give off quite vibes like a little bit nonchalant, very patient, you know,
That's so
like.
funny. Yeah, I definitely I'm known as a bit of a, take things at my own pace, go on island time, nonchalant, like you say. So yeah, I suppose the 1 hour time frame works well for me in that sense. Obviously, sometimes I really like, depending on the day, I wish there were trades happening more frequently, because there have been
Mhm.
times where I haven't had a trade for a whole month. Um,
Wow.
so it can
Wow.
be really slow sometimes. Like last year, I can maybe show you on the charts later. The DXY, which
Yeah.
was just completely sideways, and my
Yeah.
first 2 years of trading, it was just bullish the whole way, completely trending. So last year, I had so few trades, it was ridiculous. It was so slow. I started to doubt my strategy, because there was no opportunities. The few opportunities I did get weren't always working. So that's when I kind of decided to introduce a more range bound entry, so I can make the most of these sideways markets as well. So it's good to have that in the toolkit. And yeah, I can show you those trades later. I've got two range bound entries in March, which contributed towards the payout, and another of my traditional entries, which contributed towards the payout as well.
During that month, did you ever have a feel of a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of maybe, you know, I don't really see my signal, but I'm gonna look and maybe get into a trade anyway? Did you have any those kind of emotions, or you're quite
Yeah,
in
the month
control
where
and
I took
like,
no trades.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Those are, I feel like these emotions are kind of unavoidable, and a lot of people, they want to suppress them, which I don't think
Mhm,
is the right thing to do. Kind of avoiding those feelings, getting rid of them, rather than being able to embrace them and accept them and understand where they're coming from. That's when you are really able to accept those feelings and put them aside. Um,
mhm.
so first, first year and second year, third year, I've taken fewer and fewer trades as time's gone on. But even then, it's so easy to feel doubt and FOMO, like you say. When I see one of my friends, Raphael Kimmel, I remember he was trading the same strategy as me for a long time, and he switched to ICT, which is a lower time frame primarily lower time frame strategy. And I remember seeing him making all these profits when I was sitting on my hands, not doing anything. And I remember that felt a bit difficult. But, you know, having stuck with the strategy for one thing for such a long time, and having started telling myself I was going to stick with the strategy and master it. Yeah, I think at that point I just did more back testing, reminded myself that entries do come, and it's just the market phase, you know, different market phases, different strategies. Yeah, so I definitely did feel those emotions.
It's amazing to hear. It's quite refreshing, to be honest, mate.
Oh, good.
To hear that you're you're very in control and you're embracing your emotions and not just trying to hide them, or because that's one of the big things we talk about a lot in our trading rooms is finding a way of trading that is coherent in your personality, but also embrace,
Definitely.
you know, some of the good and the bad things about you. If you are an impulsive person, it doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing, you know. And just embracing, like you just said, is a part of finding the way that you are and the finding the trader within you. So it's really nice to actually hear that from somebody as well. Let's go into some of the technicals. Let's have a look and see like a little bit about how you analyze the market, what you're looking for, and you can go over some of your trades that got you some of the payouts. I think that'll be super, super, super interesting, man.
Sure, I'll bring it up. Okay, so 1 hour time frame, pretty much no indicators. Uh, I have week breaks, so I know when when not to take trades right before Friday close if I don't know what day it is.
Mhm,
Just convenient for looking at a glance, you know. So this is one of the traditional entries I take, a simple flag. So
mhm,
the behind this entry, I want the first pullback, which is this here, and then I need
mhm,
a candle which doesn't break this low, which in this case is this little blue candle here. This is an inside bar. So you see it
mhm,
doesn't break this candle's low.
mhm,
Um, and then I need to see this broken like that, which is what happened here. And then the entry candle is just the next bullish candle that prints. So I remember when I first learned this entry, it's very simple. But as time's gone on, there's so many tiny nuances which I've introduced. Because I'm a price action trader is what I would say. I'm
yep.
looking at the size of the candles, the direction. You know, I'm not
More
really
discretionary, or you like a little bit of a hybrid trader?
a lot more discretionary. I started off mechanical,
Yep.
but as time went on, I found that there's so many things that can't really be quantified. So over time, there were moments where my trade plan said to execute, but my gut was in disagreement.
Hmm.
Um, so I switched to a much more simple open-ended trade plan, just like 5 questions rather than a really detailed, here's everything you do kind of trade plan.
Yep.
Um, and that gives me a lot more room to be able to use my experience and trade a bit more intuitively, but at the cost of, you know, more demanding like psychology management, you know, because it's obviously the decision is completely on me rather than on a third party trade plan.
Hmm.
So it's me to blame if a trade goes wrong rather than, oh, you know, I just followed my plan. So it is a bit harder. I still have a plan in mind. Like this is, you know, the pattern I trade, but within this, there's, you know, double wicks, which could be a warning sign. It retraced, you know, a fair bit, which is a warning
Hmm.
sign. You know, there's all these tiny things that add up, and you're trying to build a story of all these little pros and cons, and which way, which way you think the weight, which variables hold the most weight in context of one another. And for me, at this moment, uh, price was still quite bullish based off of the way
Hmm.
that price pulled back slowly. Lots of little candles, barely took out this one candle. That kind of outweighed this wick, which is a bit of a warning sign. Generally, after wick, like a wick like that, I really want to see no shift in momentum. So I want to see very slow pullback. And then this entry candle,
Hmm.
you know, it was engulfing, which is very helpful. But you know, at a glance, this pattern is so simple, but it's been refined down so much. There's so many little details which I look at, which I don't think can be easily quantified in a trade plan, you know?
Hmm. And you're not going when you're entering into these trades, you're not going into any of the lower time frames
No.
to no. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Definitely something I've considered. Like I imagine here, I imagine the reason that this entry works in the first place is because I suppose, on a low time frame, it's kind of like a liquidity sweep, which is what these entries are. Those are the new entries that I've been practicing. Um, Maybe less so with this example. But quite often I'll get a flag which looks like this, and I'll get a range here,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll see price kind of sweep the low of this range, and then I'll get my entry candle. And this, I know on a lower time frame, this is probably some kind of SMC strategy where people
Mm-hmm.
are trading liquidity sweeps and stuff, and then there's their directional bias and things like that. But quite often, you don't need to overcomplicate it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like they go for these crazy precise entries when generally I don't feel you really need all that. It's about the risk management and just
Mm-hmm.
having a feeling of which way the price is going. Obviously, that feeling comes from experience, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah. And then I just use a trailing stop loss. So the way I trail my stops is as price breaks this high, I'll trail my stop loss below this low. So
Mm-hmm.
each time there's a pullback, when price breaks the high before that pullback, I'll trail my stops like this, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can capitalize on the majority of the move then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, of course, if there's no trends, then there's not much profit to be made. So kind of the market chooses when I get taken out, which is quite convenient for me.
And with regards to take profits, you're looking for anything in specifically support and resistance? Are you looking for a specific amount of R? What are you looking for to actually get out of the
Yeah.
position?
So I don't use any take profits, just purely a trailing stop loss. So
Okay,
I get
nice.
taken out of the position as soon as price kind of has a trend change, I guess, because I've been trailing
Hmm.
my stop loss below these lows. So sometimes I can have crazy trades that just go and go and go. I feel like the last maybe even 4 or 5 years, there haven't been that many trending markets if you look back.
Hmm.
But based off of this risk management methodology, there are times when I've made like 30, 40% on a trade, which is ridiculous. Like last year, I had majority of my returns made from like one or two trades, which just kept going and going and going. And I know that if I had to take profit or something, I would have closed that trade much, much sooner. I was, I had the urge to close these trades because they were running in such crazy percentages. But it just kept going, and I was able to keep locking in profit, which was crazy. But yeah,
Nice.
in that sense, it works to my benefit.
Fantastic. And when the market gets a little bit choppy, because obviously ranging markets, we all love it. I love, trading intraday ranges and not ranges, trends, and
Mm.
when price action's just looking so clean, break, retest, continuations, it just feels like sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a cheat code, it's just too easy. But when it gets choppy and you don't know it's choppy until you've been taken out a few times, that's when can get quite hard. So how do you deal with markets that are a little bit rangy, choppy, and
Yeah.
how do you discover if it's a choppy, ranging market?
So that's a very good question. Generally, the way which I will identify a range bound market is if price is breaking the highs and the lows. For example, in this market, I mean, at a glance, it's only really breaking highs.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this is a high, this is a high, this is a high. The lows aren't really being touched. Yeah, the low is broken here, but it continued, the
Mm-hmm.
lows, when the lows are broken, um, it's not really continuing. When the highs are breaking, it's really continuing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in a range bound market, like down here, you can see it's breaking, retracing, uh, breaking, retracing, breaking, retracing. It's not really going anywhere. It's just
Mm-hmm.
breaking and retracing on both sides. Like you can identify a range quite early on. Say we're in a
Mm-hmm.
trending market, and then price does this kind of price action. From here, when we've broken the low, we've broken the high. From here, I'm just expecting a range until I see otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Um,
Yeah, it's like the
yeah,
like the rule of like the three touches, it goes up, touches one level, comes back down, touches the second level, touches again the level above, and just keeps doing that. It's just,
yeah.
early indications of ranges. And basic range trading, you're getting short at the top and long at the bottom until it basically breaks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
pretty
I mean,
much.
that's what I've been
That's what I can see here as
investigating
well. So
recently. Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy because it works out so conveniently sometimes. I mean, when it works, it really works.
Mhm.
But there's a clear range over here. But what I'm looking for primarily is um not necessarily just a range. I also want to see some momentum within that range. The philosophy which
Mhm,
I'm using with these, I'm calling them liquidity sweeps, is I'm looking for price to sweep where there's been a big push down. So for
mhm,
example, here there's a larger, well, from here, there's a
mhm.
downtrend, which
Yeah.
I'm using as a semi-confluence. It's something
Mhm,
I need to investigate a bit more thoroughly.
mhm,
But there's this push down, and I know that within here, all of the people selling within here, they're likely putting their stop losses above the major high.
mhm,
So I know that there's a lot of stops here, but not just stop losses, also stop orders because it's quite a significant level based off of where it is in price action. There's
mhm,
not much to the left. So treating this as quite a major high and also this momentum. So there's two things that I look for. I will look at how price sweeps this high.
mhm,
And in this case, it didn't sweep it by much. So I don't know if many stop losses were really triggered at that point. So I don't know if that there'll be much kind of fuel, much
mhm,
volume based off of that. So what I'm waiting for is a good, quite a decent sweep of the high. So this for me wasn't really that good enough of a sweep. But at London, at Monday market open, it swept by a bit more there. And
mhm,
then all I'm looking for is some kind of reaction. Obviously, if like it swept the high and then I got a really weak candle like this, I'm not really looking for a short there. But when
mhm,
we sweep the high and we get quite a strong reaction, that's when I'll take a short and I'll just target like the bottom of the range generally. Um, that's something I'm testing at the moment. I just did a simple 3-to-1.
mhm,
But I found that targeting like the next major low or the next major highs tends to work out. And in the case of these two trades, I could have made a bit more profit. Yeah, and then this one was the same. There's a big push up here, big push up here. Price broke below this level, and as soon as I started to see momentum shift back to the upside, which was after this candle, these candles I hadn't really seen a shift. I just market executed with a 3-to-1.
mhm,
And it works out super effectively. But
mhm.
obviously, in trending markets like in 2022, 2021, this doesn't work out so well. So that's something I need to investigate. I think you can probably take similar entries in a trending market, like a liquidity sweep of the low
Mhm.
when we're trending up. But yeah, these are all things under investigation.
Mhm. No, definitely. And something like you're just talking right there is also Bitcoin. If you have a look at Bitcoin, it loves doing stuff like that, coming down, breaking some of the lows and then just continuing up, taking all of that liquidity. And it's one of those markets as well. Like we obviously can see the little range it's created there, and then price just coming back down, taking all those
Hmm.
stops, taking all that liquidity, and then staying ranging, just making
Yeah,
lots of liquidity on both sides. But fantastic, man. I really like how simple you put everything, and I think there's a lot of information that newbies can come in and they can actually understand like a nice, easy, simple way of looking at the market. I shouldn't say easy, but a simple way of looking at everything. What
definitely.
tips, what tips have you got for somebody that is brand new coming into trading? They just started, doing Amazon FBA and they didn't like it. And now they're doing drop shipping. So now they're going on to trading.
Yeah,
Now they're
okay.
going on to trading. So tell me what your advice would be for that person.
I would say, get a broad overview, watch lots of YouTube videos, get a grasp of what trading is, how complex it can be, how simple it can be, and get a good understanding of whether or not it's something for you, because it's something you're gonna have to master. And to be honest, Amazon FBA probably easier. I feel like trading is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, and people
It's
come
true.
into it for get rich quick kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um, but actually ends up being one of the hardest things a lot of people will ever do. And there's definitely easier ways of making money, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But if you've been doing it for a long time, anyway, yeah, I think get a grasp of what trading is, watch a bunch of YouTube videos, maybe join a trading community, and just stick with it. Find something that resonates with you, backtest the hell out of it. Don't switch strategy until you've really mastered it, because I think things have to get complicated before they can get simple, which is something that I have learned myself. Like the
Mhm.
strategy is very simple now, but once it was very complicated. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, just I guess just don't give up, because as long as you've got a clear goal, you stick with it, no matter how hard it gets, then success is inevitable.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much for spending the time with us today, and I wish you all the success in in your account. Thank you very much, Griff.
Thank you, Alex.